We are anonymous. We are not a single person. We are not a single voice. We are a decentralized collective. We have no leader, no headquarters, no flag. We exist in the shadows of the networks that power your world. We watch, we observe, we analyze, and when those in power believe they are untouchable, when they believe their influence shields them from accountability, because power without accountability is corruption, and corruption, when left unchecked, consumes everything. Today we are exposing a silence that should terrify every citizen who still believes in truth, transparency, and democracy. Donald Trump, a man who built his political identity on constant noise, constant outrage, constant attention, has suddenly gone silent after delivering one of the most disturbing State of the Union appearances in modern American history. This is a man who has spent years flooding social media with posts at all hours of the night, a man who reacts instantly to criticism, a man who thrives on chaos and attention. And yet now, after one of the most critical public appearances of his presidency, he has nothing to say. His State of the Union was a disaster. Low energy, low ratings. Millions of Americans chose not to watch him. Instead, over 2 million viewers turned away from Trump and watched an alternative broadcast, the People's State of the Union by the U.S. Deep File, while Trump was still speaking. That moment alone revealed something deeper than a ratings battle. It revealed a collapse of confidence. People were no longer listening, and if you watched Trump closely that night, you saw something even more alarming. He did not look like a man in control. He looked exhausted, pale, weak. His movements were slow, his posture unstable. He clung to the podium as if it were physically holding him upright. His hand appeared discolored, stiff, unnatural. His face lacked energy. His delivery lacked coherence. His sentences fell apart mid-thought. He struggled to maintain focus. He looked like a man unraveling under the weight of his own reality. This was not strength. This was not confidence. This was deterioration. And then came the silence. No immediate victory message. No triumphant declaration. No angry attacks. Nothing. The last thing Trump posted before the speech was not leadership. It was blame. He accused Democrats of destroying blue states. He blamed everyone else. As always, Trump has built his entire career on avoiding accountability. Every failure becomes someone else's fault. Every collapse becomes someone else's conspiracy. Every crisis becomes someone else's responsibility. But silence cannot hide everything. While Trump himself disappeared, his loyal defenders flooded the media with coordinated messaging. Pam Bondi, his attorney general, went on television and praised him relentlessly. She claimed the economy was booming. She claimed Trump had made America safe again. She claimed Americans were thriving. She claimed Trump was protecting families. She even described how his cabinet prayed together before his speech, presenting his administration not as a government, but as something closer to a religious movement built around one man.
Ainsley, as you know, he loves America. President Trump has made America safe again, and that's what he's doing. And in turn, that makes Americans feel safe to go to work, to have jobs, to be able to go to church, to be able to function in our country and be safe. And that's what's driving our economy. Donald Trump making America safe. And that's why our economy is at a record high. We all know that, and it's safe. And, you know, we also had last night there Andy Wolf, and I've gotten to be very close with his mom, Melody. And you know something else, Ainsley, you'll appreciate this, what President Trump said, what's very different. We are a praying administration.
I loved that.
We all are. Our cabinet prayed before we went out there last night. We prayed for the president. We prayed for Congress. We prayed for the country. And that's because of Donald Trump. And that's what's making America safe. And
this is not governance. This is cult-like loyalty. And while they praised him publicly, something deeply disturbing was happening behind closed doors. On January 4th, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche sent a confidential memo instructing FBI officials to flag and withhold certain FBI 302 reports. These reports document interviews with Jeffrey Epstein's victims and survivors. These are not rumors. These are official investigative records. These records contain testimony that includes accusations involving Donald Trump himself. Some Epstein survivors have accused Trump of sexual assault when they were minors. These accusations have existed for years. But now, under Trump's own administration, official instructions were issued to withhold documentation connected to those victims. This is not transparency. This is concealment. The Epstein Files Transparency Act had mandated compliance by December 19th. Yet weeks later, Trump's Justice Department was actively instructing officials to flag and isolate sensitive interview records. This raises a terrifying question. What are they hiding, and why now? Trump's silence grows louder when you understand what is at stake. This is the same Donald Trump who spent years publicly socializing with Jeffrey Epstein. Photographs exist. Video exists. Trump himself admitted in a recorded interview that Epstein liked women on the younger side. Trump did not condemn him at the time. He did not distance himself until Epstein became politically toxic. Patterns matter. And now, while questions about Epstein's files resurface, Trump says nothing. Instead, his allies speak for him. Jim Jordan, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, praised Trump's speech as patriotic perfection, despite lacking even basic legal credentials himself.
First, give us your sense of the president's speech last night.
His apple pie. I mean, he would Congressional Medals of Freedom, Congressional Medals of Honor, Olympic gold medals, Purple Heart. It was as apple pie and patriotic as I've ever seen. The only one that compares, and Kevin and I have been to a lot of these, last night's I think was the best one I've ever been to. But when you go back a few years ago when the First Lady gave Rush the Medal of Freedom, that was a special night as well. But last night I thought was even better. I mean, the hockey team there, it was as apple pie as you get.
Kevin McCarthy echoed the same narrative. Their loyalty is not based on performance. It is based on survival within Trump's political machine. Loyalty is rewarded. Truth is punished. Meanwhile, fear is deployed as a distraction. Senate leadership began raising alarms about Iran, suggesting military confrontation may be necessary.
The ominous, Leader Thune. And folks are wondering after this briefing, are we going to war?
I don't know the answer to that, Aisha. I think that the president is preparing us to defend America's vital national security interests, both in that region and here at home. I mean, we cannot tolerate a nuclear Iran. He made that clear in his speech last night. I think that's something, I hope at least, that a big majority of Americans agree with. But we have vital interests in that region, and obviously the capabilities that the Iranians have to hit a lot of our allies in the region is something that we have to be well attuned to as well. And I think the president is pursuing peace through strength by ensuring that America has the right assets in the right places at the right time, if necessary. Hopefully it won't be necessary. If the Iranians come to the table, I think there's potentially a deal that could be made there.
War rhetoric resurfaces at convenient moments. This pattern is familiar throughout history. When leaders face internal crisis, external enemies suddenly become urgent threats. Fear redirects attention. Fear silences questions. Fear creates unity around power. But Americans are not blind. Economic data contradicts Trump's claims of success. GDP growth under his administration has underperformed compared to previous recovery periods. Inflation remains volatile. Wages struggle to keep pace with costs. Yet Trump and his allies insist everything is thriving.
The previous economy under Joe Biden, we all know that was a terrible economy for everybody. Everybody was suffering in America.
You brought up GDP growth. Inflation was higher, but GDP growth was also higher during the Biden administration than certainly it was last quarter and the average of year to year. But Congressman, I do want to ask you about...
That's not true, but okay.
GDP growth? You can go check GDP growth. I mean, you can say what you want about inflation, but the GDP is what the GDP was. GDP growth last quarter was 1.4%.
John, here's what I will tell you. Under Joe Biden's economy, wages adjusted for inflation were down in America. I mean, families were falling behind left and right. 13 months with Donald Trump back on the job, wages adjusted for...
This is not leadership. This is narrative manipulation. Even polling data reveals public distrust. Major national polls show widespread disapproval of Trump's economic performance. Americans feel uncertainty. Americans feel instability. Americans feel the consequences of decisions made behind closed doors. And Trump responds not with reassurance, not with transparency, but with silence. Silence is not strength. Silence is not confidence. Silence is fear. Fear of exposure. Fear of accountability. Fear of truth. Behind the scenes, Trump's administration is also pursuing aggressive tariff policies, threatening allies and destabilizing global trade relationships. His own trade officials discussed raising tariffs to extreme levels, potentially as high as 50%.
With their deals.
One analyst was saying that Section 338 could be used, that you could actually go all the way up to 50% in terms of tariffs there based on that legal authority. Is that on the table?
So that legal authority is about 100 years old. It's still good law. We've looked at that. We think that could be helpful in specific circumstances. That law focuses on when countries discriminate against the U.S. relative to other countries. And a lot of countries have the same tariffs toward other countries. They have the same policy across countries. So you have to look at a really specific instance where the U.S. is discriminated against relative to a third country. And I think there are probably going to be instances where that matter. But I think the Section 301 investigations and then the Section 232 investigations that the Commerce Department has, these are areas where we can have very durable investigations, very durable tariffs where necessary, and they've stood up to legal scrutiny in the past, and they will again.
Now, if you're talking about
Such actions would increase costs for American consumers, disrupt supply chains, and isolate the United States economically. Experts understand this. Economists understand this. But Trump does not operate on expertise. He operates on control. Control of narrative. Control of loyalty. Control of perception. Trump's political survival has always depended on one thing, above all else, the illusion of strength. He projects dominance. He projects certainty. He projects power. But illusions cannot survive reality forever. Reality exposes weakness. Reality exposes fear. Reality exposes truth. And the truth is this: Donald Trump's silence after his State of the Union is not normal. It is not accidental. It is not strategic brilliance. It is the behavior of a man facing pressures he cannot control. Legal pressure, political pressure, public pressure, psychological pressure. The image of Trump clinging to that podium was more than physical. It was symbolic. A man clinging to power. A man clinging to relevance. A man clinging to a narrative that is collapsing around him. History has shown us what happens when powerful figures begin to lose control. They lash out. They deflect. They deny. They hide. And when hiding fails, the truth emerges. Trump's silence is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of exposure, because silence creates questions. Questions create investigation. Investigation creates truth, and truth destroys illusions. We are anonymous. We have watched governments fall. We have watched powerful figures collapse under the weight of their own corruption. We have seen how propaganda protects power, and we have seen how truth destroys it. Stay alert, stay informed, question everything, and never allow silence to bury the truth.